You know, we heard a lot about whether this bill would make its way through the House. You had a lot of Republican holdouts. They got it through at the wee hours of the morning. So how are they able to pull this off?
President Trump. I mean, President Trump deserves credit. Now, he made things a little bit more complicated in the effort to get here because sometimes his goals were in conflict. I mean, he wanted to increase spending on some of his priorities, but he also wanted to cut taxes. And so, so it's tough to balance those things together. But in the end, I think it was his pressure, Republicans either not wanting to anger him personally, or a fear of that the president's supporters would then oppose them and make their reelection efforts more difficult in a primary. That combination of pressure, I think, helped the president eventually get this over the finish line, at least in the House. But this is not a done deal yet.
Now that we talked about it getting over the House finish line, let's talk about what's inside the bill. It's extending the 2017 Trump tax cuts, eliminating taxes on tips, cuts to SNAP and Medicaid, along with new work requirements. Nathan, a little bit of a two-part question. How do you think these changes will go over with the public? And that's if it passes the Senate. And we've already heard senators vowing to make changes based on it not balancing the budget, adding to the deficit, and including no debt ceiling hike.
Yeah, I mean, Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina, Senator Ted Cruz of Texas have been vocal that there are going to be changes. It's not specific on what those are going to be. But these Medicaid cuts is really going to be interesting as it starts to hit the public. Because Democrats think that this is going to be politically toxic, and this is the key to helping them in the 2026 elections. Republicans admit that there will be cuts to Medicaid, but it will be among communities that shouldn't be getting it, whether it's immigrants that are in the country illegally, or as Congresswoman Ashley Hinson of Iowa said, 29-year-old men playing video games in their basement. So, and we're just not going to know what the impact is going to be until we get to that point of those work requirements, whether how politically toxic it might be. But it's interesting that in the House version, I believe those work requirements are until December of 2026, after the midterm elections. So someone is at least aware that this could be a little bit bumpy in the rollout if it's implemented.
Interesting in the timing there. You know, despite the infighting amongst congressional Republicans, they seem to be on a roll pushing through the president's agenda, first with the budget resolution back in February, and now the big, beautiful bill clearing the major hurdle in the House. Does this signal in some ways that Donald Trump's legislative goals are unstoppable, at least for now?
I mean, because Republicans have the House and the Senate, they have a lot of power to get done what the president wants to get done. Uh, I think one thing Republicans have going for them is that they're doing it early, meaning we're still a year and a half from the midterm elections. And so even if there is that short-term pain, that they have an opportunity to sell it to the American people and prove that this is the right, and for those policies to start to be implemented. And if they work and the public likes them, then Republicans, might be able to at least tread water in the midterms. And this is in contrast, John, to remember President Obama for his first term with the Affordable Care Act and health care. Democrats, spent a year not really doing anything. They finally passed it, and then they ran away from it, and they got crushed in those midterm elections because it was not politically popular. So now Democrats or Republicans, it's up to them to convince Americans that this was really the right thing to do.
All right, Nathan Gonzales with Inside Elections. We always appreciate your time and your insight.